This tutorial video is how to remind you to perform the 4 operations on rational numbers. So we've got subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division. And we are also going to take note of the signs of each fraction, so whether they're positive or negative. So let's start off with number 1. We're subtracting. We've got 2/3 subtract -3/5. Now remember, addition is the inverse operation of subtraction. So that means I can change this sign to addition, and I also have to change my negative to a positive, because subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive number. Now I'm going to find a common denominator. I am going to use 15 in order to change 2/3 into a fraction over 15. I multiply the 3 by 5, which means I'm going to multiply the 2 also by 5. So I am going to end up with 10/15. I'm adding my other fraction, which is 5 multiplied by 3 is going to give me 15, and 3 multiplied by 3 is going to give me 9/15. And now I can add these two numbers together, and that's going to give me 19/15. And I can actually convert this to a mixed number, which is always a good idea to have it in a mixed number as its final form. So 15 fits into 19 one time, and there's 4 left over because 19 subtract 15 is 4. So we've got 4/15 as our partial fraction, and I can't reduce that anymore. So this 1 and 4/15 is my final answer for number 1. For number 2, now we are adding two negative numbers together. If I put two negative numbers together, I'm actually going to end up with an even smaller number. And what I mean by that is we're going to have a number that's even further away from 0. So imagine that we started at -1/7, which would be a little bit to the left of 0, and we're adding another negative number. So we're moving even further away from 0. I need to find a common denominator. The one that I'm going to use is 14ths, because I know 7 times 2 is 14, and 1 times 2 is going to give me a 2. Don't forget that our fraction is negative, so I need to keep that negative sign there. And I'm adding another negative fraction. 2 times 7 is 14. So there's my denominator. And 1 times 7 is 7. There's my numerator. And now that I have the same denominator, I can put these two negative numbers together. So -2 and -7 equals a total of 9 negatives. So I have -9/14, and I don't believe I can simplify that anymore, so that is my final answer for number 2. Let's move this on up here. So we're going to take a look at multiplication next. And the easiest trick for multiplication is that you can just multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and then reduce your fraction. So negative, I'm going to shift the negative up into the numerator. It doesn't matter where the negative is in a fraction. It can be on the whole fraction, it can be in the numerator, or it can be in the denominator. You just need to remember that fractions represent division. So -5 divided by 6 is going to give you a negative number, or +5 divided by -6 is still going to give you a negative number in total. So it doesn't matter where that negative is. I'm shifting it up to the numerator so that I can do -5 multiplied by 3, which is going to give me -15. And 6 multiplied by 4 is going to give me 24. And now I can reduce this fraction. I know both of these numbers are divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. And I end up getting -5/8. And I can't reduce that anymore, so that is my final answer for question number 3. Lastly, we've got division. Now remember, it's hard to think about division, especially in terms of fractions. So we're going to use the inverse operation, which is multiplication. And if we're going to switch the sign to multiplication, then we need to take that 1/3 and use the reciprocal to multiply by. So we've got 8/9. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3/1. And 3/1 is just 3. Now I'm going to multiply across the top and the bottom. So 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. 9 times 1 is going to give me 9. And look at that, I can divide both the numerator and denominator by 3 again, like the previous example. And I am going to get my reduced fraction, which is going to give me 8 over 3. Now I can actually flip that to a mixed number, and I'm going to do that because mixed numbers are a lot easier to think about than improper fractions. So 3 fits into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6, which means I have 2 left over because 8 subtract 6 is 2. So there we go, I have my mixed number, and 2 2/3 is my final answer for question number 4.